Good morning. So I'm Jason Hopkins. I work at Lockheed Martin doing Lunar infrastructure services. I'm not going to bore you with that because it's my day job, and I wanted to talk to you about how I got there. And I'll share that I think, like most of us, I had a fascination with space as a kid, and I knew I wanted to be an astronaut. As you see, that didn't work out well. But I did have a great journey to get there, and what I wanted to show you is my, I think we use unorthodox path to get to where I am now, and I still haven't given up on that dream, right? So I went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, got my bachelor's in aerospace engineering, and then I attended George Washington, got a master's in system engineering. But when I graduated, it was right after the Columbia accident. Like I said, all I wanted to do was be an astronaut. I thought to myself, I'm going to go work at KSC. I'm going to learn everything I can about the space shuttle, and I'm going to set myself apart so that I can become this astronaut. Columbia accident happens, unfortunately, and there was a big hiring freeze at NASA. I had no idea what I was going to do, so I ended up selling motorcycles in Daytona for about a year, and awesome experience, except for I had a ton of student loan debt, right? I was like, I cannot sustain this. And then I thought, well, what else can I do selling motorcycles? So I joined this motorcycle stunt group called Driving to Endanger. And had a great time doing that. Also no money there, despite small sponsorships. And then a good friend of mine got me my first job out at Lockheed, flying satellites. Up here in DC, and so did all kind of satellite operations between real time, back shops, support, great job. And then I was like, I really got to get back to my dream, right? So I had an opportunity to transfer down to Kennedy Space Center with Lockheed, and I worked space shuttle. I was like, yes, finally get to do this. So I worked external tank as a mechanical engineer for about a year, and then Lockheed won the Orion contract, and I was like, well, shoot. Well, there's a space shuttle thing that I've loved as a kid, but then there's this new awesomeness. What do I do? So I was like, oh, well, at the time I was like, maybe I'll be too old to fly the space shuttle, but young enough to fly in the Orion. So I switched to Orion program. And I worked guidance, navigation control, and avionics for Orion. Then I was doing such I'll call it a great job, a humble brag. I got noticed by some folks at NASA, and they wanted me to come over and support NASA. So I got hired on to work as a civil servant in NASA. And there I moved on to support a lot of the heavy lift architecture. So I moved over to NASA. I moved over to NASA right as Constellation was getting canceled. So in 2009, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I get into NASA, and I'm like, all right, well, there's at least job security. I'll have an opportunity to still do something for NASA, learn whatever's next, and then still become an astronaut, right? So we worked these heavy lift vehicle studies, figuring out what was next after Ares 1 and Ares 5. And then I got pulled on to go work this reusable booster system program partnered with the Air Force. Interesting concept, but pardon the pun, it didn't take off. So came back, and then SLS was selected as the baseline. And so I started working SLS timeline for integration all the way up through T0. Great opportunity, learned a lot about SLS. I'm thinking like, all right, I know about this rocket, I know about Orion, I'm getting there. And then I got pulled off to go work this human to Mars architecture study. And I'm like, all right, well, sounds like a great opportunity to see what's next. Maybe I'll be the first person on Mars, right? So we worked that, and as I'm going through that, realizing that is a really long way off. And so I ended up coming back to KSC again. I was part of headquarters for that. Coming back to KSC, and I got to oversee the VAB and the crawlers, right? Again, back focused again. So I worked all of the modifications for the crawler and the VAB to upgrade them for SLS, which now is the Artemis mission. great opportunity, learned a lot. I can tell you how to put the SLS or Artemis 1 together, backwards, forwards, all the testing that's required, right? I'm like, I'm in. Then I got pulled in to go work in the United States Senate. I'm like, great. Like, I have no clue anything about the legislative branch. Like, I know there's 3 branches of the government. I worked in the executive branch. That was all I knew. Like, they do crazy stuff, right? So I got in, and I went to go work on the Science and Space Subcommittee for then Senator Bill Nelson. Wonderful opportunity. Learned so much about, one, how the government works, well, 2 of the 3 branches, how they work, and then supported the direction that NASA was eventually going. So we drafted a bunch of legislation for NASA's authorization, National Science Foundation, NOAA. Wonderful time, and I was like, all right, well, this is definitely going to help me at least because all the astronauts come back to the Hill to testify. Well, after their space missions, I think Tim probably came back, you do like a tour on the Hill, you talk to all the Congress people about your experience of spaceflight, and then talk about policies and the direction that NASA's going, right? So I was like, all right, well, I'm doing the reverse, so maybe this will help me become an astronaut. So my time ended, and I had to go back to NASA, and I got to work the Exploration Flight Test 1 program as the Operations and Integration Manager for that mission. Awesome. Again, back on track, putting together the Orion, put it together for the test flight, and thinking this is it, right? And then they had a lot of delays, and I was getting kind of bummed, right? And so I had an opportunity to go in to work at Maston earlier on in the Maston days, and we were working a DARPA program for a reusable space vehicle, very similar to the reusable booster system called XS-1, and it was intended to be a reusable launch vehicle, vertical takeoff, vertical landing for cargo, and then eventually we're looking to commercialize it for humans. I was like, well, all right, well, if NASA's not going to get me as an astronaut, maybe I'll go the commercial route, right? We ended up losing that program after the second phase, and so I was looking for another opportunity, and I came to Ball, and I realized, like, hey, all right, astronauts, it's not going to work out for me. Like, I've been trying, and it's just not working, right? I'll figure out another way to do it. Maybe I'll get rich one day and fly on Virgin or something. Or maybe they'll take me for free. So if anybody here, I'm interested. So I went back to Ball, or not back to Ball. I went to Ball, and I got into all non-human space flight. So I started working national security missions just to kind of not think about being an astronaut. And it was great. Developed a lot of cool programs and products. Got to build basically a visible camera for Earth imaging. Had a great time. And then I used that opportunity to get back here at Lockheed for the second time. So here I am. But I say all that to say, as you see, my career has been just a wild ride of things that I would have never thought possible as a 20-something-year-old college graduate with my mind set on becoming an astronaut and doing everything but. But it was an amazing journey, and I think the other important thing is giving back. I think to folks like you all, paying it forward is another joy that I found in my journey. Is, you know, a lot of folks don't know what they really want to do, or you think you know what you want to do, and then something comes along the way that completely sidetracks you, and you have no idea how that's going to pan out. But I can tell you, it may seem weird. It's definitely, it may not be what you planned, but it could be a great learning opportunity. It could also be fun. So grab a hold of those things, run with them as far as you can, and embrace them, and then give back. Talk to all your friends about your your experiences, let them know, friends, colleagues, the young ones that follow up behind you all, let them know your journeys, because there's a lot of similarity in everything that we do. I mean, this industry is so small. We all will cross paths. We'll all do something very close to the same. Share what you know so that they can grow as well. Anyway. Oh, all these pictures. So some of the crazy opportunities. I got to film an episode of Reading Rainbow with LeVar Burton. I was in Transformers 3, that was the other one. I speak to Boy Scouts. I'm on the board for a nonprofit that does STEM education, also in the Space Camp Hall of Fame. Didn't know that was a thing. So anyway, that's myself. I think we're ready for questions.